We've got Ninos coming on to have his say. I believe he's a Gooner. I think he's a Gooner. We spoke a little while back. How you doing, mate? Welcome to the show.
Good, man. How you going?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm good. What's your take on this news? Out of the blue, Ornstein bomb, bid in, deal advanced for Uri and Timber to Arsenal. Talk to me.
For myself, unless the person's in an Arsenal shirt, I don't get too excited when it comes to transfers because I've seen this stuff happen many, many years. I'm actually 38 at the moment, so I've been years and years following Arsenal, and the same thing has happened over and over again. So unless I see the guy in a jersey, it's not really anything interesting to me. But I wanted to really touch base on something you said about the Partey situation, Thomas Partey.
Yeah.
And how everyone's using him as a scapegoat at the moment. And I think that's what they do with players like that. Every single time something goes wrong, rather than holding management to account as well, because Arteta has not been held to account for any bad decisions he's made. Coming into the season in January, we were 50 points. We were clear of hitting the 100-point mark. And one of our best players was Thomas Partey. He was one of the big reasons why we're in that situation. And I think him falling off was not because he's a bad player. I think it was during the January transfer window we didn't get any coverage, because that's where we were lacking. We were lacking in the midfield. We were lacking in the defence. We didn't cover for Jesus when he was out. We kind of went with Eddie and Nketiah. We made the bids. We made the bids for midfield, but we just didn't follow through. And then at the end of it, it's, we lost the season to games like West Ham. It was a missed penalty by Saka. Games like Southampton, attack didn't do enough to score any goals. Newcastle, we didn't score any goals. These are the games that we should have put in the bag, and we just didn't. And that's what ends up happening. You end up blaming players like Partey. Partey should still be in the team. I think this team's growing, and having someone with his experience will help. Getting rid of Partey would be probably the worst decision we can make.
Jess, I'm going to let you respond to that, because you're the Arsenal fan here. Like, what's your take on that?
I mean, well, you named a couple of games there where we didn't score goals, but we scored 2 goals against Newcastle, so that don't count, But in terms of you have to hold management to account, and it's about the goals, and Saka missed the penalty. But in all of those games, like against Southampton, against West Ham, against Liverpool, we scored 2 goals, 2 goals, 3 goals. I'm very sorry, but we shouldn't have to score 4 or 5 goals a game to win. Really, for me, our main issue is that we couldn't defend to save our lives. And part of that had to do with the fact that we didn't have anything better than Holding, which Holding should have been moved on. I think a lot of us know that. We should have had a different option there. We should have had the ability to move Ben White central and have another right back. So, yeah, we were short there. But some of that was on the fact that Thomas Partey he had head loss during some of those games. Against West Ham, I mean, you can't look past the moment that he tried to flick it over Declan Rice. It hits Declan Rice and he acts like it hit his hand, and then the penalty happens. Yeah, Saka missed a penalty, but there are also things that he did, and there's things that everybody did. But I don't know if Thomas Partey would be being let go because he made those mistakes and fell off at the end of the season. I just genuinely think they don't want to extend his contract. And I don't know that, as good as he's been, I don't know if he's done enough to extend him beyond this point. He's on 250 grand per week. He's one of our highest earners. And if a team like Saudi Arabia, or a team from Saudi Arabia is willing to give you 40 something million for Thomas Partey, I think you take it at this point. Fans are always complaining about how we don't sell players and we don't get any money for them. It's because we wait till it's too late. So I hear your point on he's a scapegoat and it's everybody's putting it on him. It's definitely not just on him. It's on everybody. It's some of the players in attack, defense, the management. But moving him on, I don't think has anything to do with that. I just think they don't feel like there's any value in extending him. Would you extend him beyond this season? Would you extend him to keep him longer? He only has 2 years left. And if you don't extend him and he doesn't leave next summer, he'll leave for free.
Well, I think leaving for free is worth winning a title. Let him leave for free, and winning a title within this next 2 years is worth it. keeping him with the experience that he's got, with the, I guess, what he's done for the locker room and what he's done for Arsenal Football Club is worth it. But getting rid of him, bringing someone else in, and then restarting this project doesn't guarantee us titles either. So, you know, I'd rather keep what we've got, work with what we've got, than get rid of it. Because if you keep doing an overhaul like this and just keep bringing new players in, it's completely just going to be project after project after project. You know, and how often are we going to get it right? It doesn't matter what you spend on a player. Look at what happened with Sambi Lokonga.
See,
you bring in players like Fabio Vieira, doesn't make a difference.
So I understand. Again, I understand what you're saying, and there's always where I agree with you in terms of where you're right is there's always a risk. You may bring in you get rid of 2 or 3 players this year, the Tierney's and the Parteys that a lot of fans want to keep, and it doesn't work. But equally, it can go in the other direction. When you said earlier that your manager, though, Arteta, has not been held accountable for any of his mistakes, genuinely, I don't mean this as a loaded question. What do you mean by that? Because from my perspective, just as an outsider looking in, I've seen Mikel Arteta, like, barring being sacked, I've seen him ridiculed by the media, ridiculed by fans, ridiculed by rivals. When you say not held to account, what do you mean? Like, directly, what do you mean by that?
I mean, give him a season. This is the last season. If you don't win the league or Champions League, you're out. That's what we need to hold ourselves to account. We need to be at that level. We're currently at that level. So if you don't win a Premier League or if you don't win a Champions League, I'm not talking about an FA Cup or a Carling Cup. You win a Champions League, you win a Premier League, or you're gone. Just like any other management across football. That's exactly what happens. Yeah, we're the only club that hold on to this dead weight constantly, no matter what it is. Whether it's players, you just said it yourself, we hold on to players and then we don't get rid of them. We do the same thing with management too. Look at Unai Emery, he was sacked for even less. So,
well, here's the thing though, it's that, like, if you're gonna say that, you know, like you use the example of like how we hold on to players too long and we hold on to this dead weight, you just gave an example of like why Thomas Partey should not be held, like why he shouldn't be held accountable. He should be then. You know what I mean? It's like you didn't want him to be held accountable because you want Mikel Arteta to be, but aren't the players accountable for not hitting their marks as well? Because, like, let's keep it real. If you're getting paid £250,000 per week, you're our highest paid player. You know, you're 30 something years old. You are more accountable than Bukayo Saka on £30,000 per week taking that penalty. And I am so sorry, but he needs to have accountability as well. Mikel Arteta, I don't think he needs to be just like sacked because he didn't meet his mark this season. He definitely needs to do a lot better. But for you to take away any accountability from Thomas Partey and say that he doesn't need to take any accountability, it should be Mikel Arteta. Like, you have to put some of the blame on the players, and you did. You put it on Saka. So what's the difference? Like, why don't you want it to be on Thomas Partey and you want it to be on Saka and Mikel Arteta? There's no equity there.
Because the coach is the coach makes the decisions of who plays on the pitch. There was I remember there was one game, I forgot who we played against, and we had Zinchenko. We could have put Zinchenko in the center when Xhaka was sick, I think, that time. We could have put Zinchenko in the center because he's inverted, and we could have put Tierney in the left back. What Arteta went and played, he played Fabio Vieira, and we ended up losing that game. So what I mean by holding accountability, Thomas Partey has a role on the pitch to play football. He doesn't make decisions who's on the pitch and who's not and who's around him. When you're playing Thomas Partey, I know it was end of the season, but when you're playing Thomas Partey in the right back and making him look even worse than he was looking in the last 3 games, it doesn't work like that. You know, the guy had, if you can say, he had 85% of a great season. And to hold him to account and say, when it comes down to the big games, people do this all the time. It comes to Messi as well. They say, oh, in big games, these players don't perform. But they perform in games that they need to, where they play. Sometimes people it's out of their hands. If, as a player, you can only do as much as you can when you're playing football.
I get where you're coming from. The only thing that's, again, a little confusing to me is you're sort of saying that Partey shouldn't be a scapegoat, but as Jeff said, but maybe Saka should be. Or
no, not at all. Not at all. I think everyone's to blame.
But this is the thing, though. I see a lot of Arsenal fans like yourself say people should be held to account. It looks like Tierney's lack of fitness or Tierney's inability to control the ball in the middle, control the game in the middle, Partey's inability in those big key moments the manager is holding them to accountability. Now, I get what Arsenal fans are looking for. We want the manager held to accountability as well. And I think he will be. But so far, I think anyone who wanted your manager sacked has been proven wrong so far by your growth. Now, over the next 2 years, you don't start winning major trophies, then you could argue that it was a mistake to keep him on. You genuinely can. But I personally, just from the outside looking in, with the players you've renewed, the money you're now spending, the contracts you're giving out, the position you're now in as a club again, I don't understand what the negativity is being an Arsenal fan right now. I honestly don't know. I feel like you guys should be all sunshine and rainbows. You know, you're barring City, you're one of the best positioned teams in this country to go and challenge. If you bring in these signings that you're linked with today, and I know you said like new signings don't mean much to you until they're holding the shirt, and I kind of respect that. But at the same time, you can't be asking for your club to improve it and not be interested in like who you're linked to and who you might buy. It feels to me like you are buying some real quality as well. And if you add more quality to this team, if you hold 2 or 3 players to account like you're all demanding and raise those standards and show people that if you don't deliver consistently enough, you'll be out the door. You're only going to get better. That like you guys have been demanding this level of ruthlessness, and it almost feels a little bit like, well, I know the manager's now being ruthless, but that's hypocritical because he weren't sacked when he did something bad. I just don't quite get the frustration, my friend.
So when you say we're in the market for targets, like mid window January, we were in the market for targets. We never are able to get our first target, no matter what it is. It's been like that for years.
Jesus was our number 1 target. We actually knew about that before the season ended, the season prior, and we got him.
Let's give you that one. What about when it comes to midfield? When it came to the January transfer window, we went for Douglas Costa. We went for who else did we go for? We went and put a bit of Caicedo. We didn't get anyone.
We went for Douglas Luiz at the very end of the transfer window because El Neni had gotten a long-term injury. That's literally the only reason why we went in for him. He wasn't for sale. But I don't like removing context just so that we could lump everything together and be upset about things because it's kind of like the thing to say we never get our number 1 targets. That's just like factually, that's not true. We missed out on Caicedo because he wasn't for sale. We missed out on Douglas Luiz because he wasn't for sale. We were willing to pay way over either one of their market values in order to get them. Caicedo's probably worth about 60 million. We went in with like 75. Douglas Luiz was worth like 20 and we went in with like 40. Do you know what I mean? So it's like, that's not missing out on your number 1 target. That's going after it and not being able to get it done. Mudryk is pretty much one of the only, like in this regime, where we didn't get our number 1 target because we weren't able to beat Chelsea out in terms of the structure of the deal. It's fact, like for me, it's not really factually true that we just missed out on our number 1 targets. Like it's just something that people say because it sounds cool, like, or it sounds like super negative, but it's not true. Like it's
all
just.
Right, I'll rephrase that. We never get targets we bid for if someone else comes in for. Okay. It happened with Rafinha. It happens all the time.
Rafinha, you can't say Rafinha. Chelsea didn't even get Rafinha. He never wanted to go anywhere but Barcelona. That's the only place he wanted to go. Like, are you really gonna blame the club for that?
But you guys beat Spurs and Chelsea to Gabriel Jesus. Like they both wanted him.
You beat Man United to Gabriel, your centre back, because he was looking at him. I mean, it's a contract renewal, but Man United came in for Saliba the other day, and there was a no on that. I mean, off the top of my head, I don't remember who everybody was completely linked to, but you know, I understand where you're coming from with that. Sometimes you don't land these players. I get that, but I don't understand. Again, that's not really the manager's fault per se. Maybe you could argue he doesn't have as much pull as a superstar manager, and he can't bring them in. So I kind of get where you're coming from with that element there. But at the same time, like right now, you're leading the race for Declan Rice over Man City, which is huge. You're coming in for Lavia, who Chelsea want, and let's see by the end of this window. But I think the reason why you missed out on maybe some of those players in recent years is because Arsenal were in the mud. And
what happens if we miss out on Declan Rice?
Well, but then be angry. But why be? My thing to you, bro, you do look angry tonight. You've come on the show before. I mean, with all due respect, bro, like, before you miss out on him, why sit there and be angry? I don't.
Because
On a real level, I don't get it.
Do you know why I'm angry? 20 years of no Premier League title is why I'm angry. How can I not be angry? If you're telling me as an Arsenal supporter I can't be angry, then
Yo, Lee, wait, Lee, take off your mask, Lee. I know you were there. I know you were there, Lee.
I will say this, right? I get what you're angry, but mate, I hope Lee's not watching because I was going to use this on him tomorrow. He said last week that he's angry because of the promises made in 2004 when you moved stadiums, right? Or 2005, whenever you moved. The problem is no one running your club now, really, especially not Edu and Arteta, made those promises to you, did they? What they're doing is fixing the mess that was created by their predecessors. So for me, it's a case of I still think they've done enough in the last. Listen, the first couple of years were horrendous, but I feel the growth over the last couple of seasons should be enough to give you all an element of, okay, I'm just going to sit back and at least stay relaxed with this, but we'll see what happens. Listen, great call, great challenge, my friend. I really do appreciate it, brother. And we'll chat again soon. Top
Thanks,
man.
guys.
Thank you. Cheers, mate. Thank you.